Behind every great leader is a great mentor. It's time to meet yours face to face. We speak to Jacky Fick about cybercrime. Then the inspiring Vuyiswa Mutsgekwane shares her thoughts on property ownership. The Mentorship Challenge with Marc Wainer.
Welcome to the Mentorship Challenge. I'm Marc Wainer and I'm passionate about mentorship. Throughout my career, I've been fortunate to have interacted with and worked with some incredible people whose advice, guidance, and sometimes even criticism has certainly helped me to be as successful as I have been. With me is Jacky Fick. Jacky, welcome. You are the head of forensic services at SAIBPP, coming out of being a prosecutor, which I find quite interesting.
Hi Mark, thank you very much for the opportunity to come and talk on your show. Yes, that's correct. I started my career as a prosecutor and now head up forensic services at SAIBPP. Okay,
so you were with the Scorpions, and I believe that you were responsible for the first ever conviction in South Africa of cybercrime.
It was on spy software. So that is one of the tools that cyber criminals use to obtain all your personal details.
Information. So obviously this keeps you very, very busy, because I'm sure most of our viewers out there have been the victim of somebody trying to scam them or have been scammed. And you're there to try and curb this. Is it getting worse or better?
Unfortunately, it's getting worse. If you take into account what do we do these days that doesn't involve a computer and doesn't involve technology, you can understand why cybercrime is on the rise. Everything is these days done on your phone, never mind on your computer anymore, and your phone is turned into a computer. So yes, there's a definite rise in cybercrime. Also, South Africa is very high. It's ranked by the FBI as the 6th most cybercrime active country in the world.
You're kidding.
Unfortunately not.
We also now have new legislation. I'm not sure if it's been passed or it's about to be passed, the cybercrimes bill.
We recently tabled the bill in Parliament and did additional submissions on some of the sections in the bill. So it's something that I am awaiting with great vigor, because I think that if we clamp down on cybercrime in terms of how we prosecute and investigate these crimes, it will go a long way towards curbing this crime in South Africa.
If somebody comes to you and says, well, there's a fraud or this is happening, is it very difficult to sort of trace back where it originates from?
Most of the time, these attacks are not very sophisticated, because you would be surprised if you go online and see how much of your personal information is actually in public domain. So they will use software, trawl the internet, and be able to gather so much information that sometimes it's not necessary to launch something like a phishing attack on you. The last step in the process usually is obtaining your logon credentials, which could involve a phishing attack, a phishing email, or it could simply be that you have suffered from post-it disease and put all your passwords on your computer screen, or you put it in a notebook that you keep in your drawer.
At the time you were a prosecutor, where did your passion come from to go into this cyber security field? Because it's a relatively new field.
Firstly, I think I'm always tickled by other people that know more than me. And with cyber, you never get ahead. There's always something new. And cybersecurity as well, the moment you put something in place, that is a challenge for people to overcome those security measures. So it's like a game of chess.
Have we had much in the way in South Africa of successful prosecutions for cybercrimes?
Yes, I think we have. Not enough, though. I think the cases are underreported. And secondly, it's still a new field. If you look at the common law offences like murder, rape and robbery, and even some of the commercial prosecutions, cyber offences are still relatively new. And there's so much still to be done in terms of training and awareness, especially with law enforcement as well as with the prosecutors that are supposed to take these matters to court.
It's quite interesting, because I think the natural reaction, and I just think of myself, something happens, I'm blaming the network. I don't know what's going on behind and all those things. So this has happened, somebody's taken money out of my bank account, the network's responsible, they're negligent. Do you find a lot of that?
Unfortunately, we do. And secondly, people don't tend to report this to the police because what are they after? They're just after getting their money back. And what that leads to is under-reporting of these matters and not enabling the police to go after the criminals and the prosecutors to eventually prosecute these people in court. And if you look at cybercrime in South Africa, greatest amount of cybercrime is committed by cyber syndicates. They are highly organized, they know what they're doing, they're well resourced, and it's not a one-man show, unfortunately.
If you could go back in time, 20 years or whatever it was, what would you change in terms of the decisions you've made regarding your career? Would you change anything?
There was so much time that I spent worrying that I don't fit in, that I didn't focus on my uniqueness. And I didn't focus on my strong skills. I spent too much time trying to fit in. There's so much that women have in terms of natural capabilities to make them suitable for forensic investigations. And you don't have to go and kick down doors.
We've got lots of young people out there looking to start careers, maybe cyber forensics. What advice would you have for them?
Well, firstly, study. Secondly, read. The wonderful thing with cyber is that there is such a wealth of information already available on the internet that can be an expensive field to study in, but the knowledge that you can equip yourself with in terms of what you can read up and the YouTube videos that you can Google is amazing. And you might find a very unique field in the cyber world that you might be interested in. You're not going to know if you don't go out there and read.
And look, as we always say, if you don't think big, you're not going to achieve any kind of goals. So it's really been a pleasure talking to you, trying to understand the cyber world. Now I'm going to put you on the spot and say, how many hours of your time are you prepared to give to some people out there who would like to benefit from this wealth of knowledge that you have?
I am willing at this stage to pledge 15 of my hours for the duration of the year.
Okay, that would be fantastic because I think these are going to be quite intense sessions. Having 15 hours from you, the next step is, do you have a friend, a colleague, somebody you know who, either in your field or something totally different, who you think would be a good mentor and who we could challenge to give us some hours?
Actually, I do.
Good.
That is our Chief Customer Experience Officer at SAIBPP, Michelle Beta.
I can imagine that she's getting calls and complaints and all kinds of things all the time. If a call is dropped, it's the network's fault. If somebody's committing a scam, it's they stop the account. If the kids have used the account, it's also the network's fault. So thank you so much for that. It's really appreciated. It's really been for me a little bit understanding because I'm still a baby when it comes to all this technology. Don't understand that much, but I do understand when I'm being scammed. And thank you for doing what you're doing to protect us from these villains. As a token of my appreciation, thank you so much for appearing on the show. I'd like to give you a copy of my book, Making My Mark. You won't find anything in there about technology.
Thank you so much, Mark.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure. If you would like to be mentored by Jacky or any of the other incredible mentors who have already registered on our website, register as a mentee now. There are hundreds and hundreds of hours available. One of our mentors will be the right person to help you in your career. It could change your life. With me now is my special guest, Vuyiswa Mutsgekwane. Vuyiswa, welcome.
Thank you.
Great to have you on the show.
It's lovely to be here.
The purpose of this program and what we're trying to do is to connect as many people as we can with mentors, people from all walks of life and discipline who can connect and help people in whatever their chosen career is. So, and I must say, I've been blown away up until now by the number of people who've registered on our website, has volunteered hundreds of hours as mentors,
Wow.
and who are prepared to help people out there. I find it quite fascinating. You go to university, you study politics, philosophy, economics, and then you decide, no doubt because you dress so beautifully and you are so beautiful, that you want to go into the fashion business. So this is a big step away from what you studied. And you describe yourself, and I think you are a serial entrepreneur. So you keep wanting to do things, you change, you're very successful. You opened the first boutique, if you like, in Braamfontein when it was becoming trendy. And then you then move on to one of the large department stores as a buyer, designer, all kinds of things. And in between all of that, or when you stop that, you then start a couple of your own businesses. Take us through that.
Sure, yeah, it's quite interesting hearing one's life read to them, you know. But absolutely, I think for me, the common thread in all of that is my deep desire to make an impact and have some sort of impact in whatever space that I'm in. And I think that, you know, I've always been very entrepreneurial in my thinking, in my behavior. I come from a very entrepreneurial family. So even, you know, when I was working for a big corporate, you know, I never took it as though this is just a paycheck. I took it as though this is my job, this is my business, and I'm going to make the biggest impact that I can.
So you took ownership.
Absolutely, and I took it that this is I need to make the biggest impact I can in this small space.
So you're in fashion, in various parts of fashion, and then you also start this this business that does brunches.
Yeah, it's sort of like an experiential events company. So again, that was really my love of the city, you know, and my love of the energy and the development that was happening in the city at the time. And what we used to do is find different spaces, not necessarily venues. Sometimes it was just a street. Sometimes it was a rooftop of an abandoned building, but really to showcase the potential that the city had and bring all of those people who are sitting comfortably in the northern suburbs, you know, branching inside malls and say, there's something happening here. And this was, you know, 4 or 5 years ago when perhaps it wasn't, you know, as big a trend as it is. Yeah. And it's so heartwarming and inspiring for me to see, you know, just what has happened in the Joburg inner city today.
Yeah, no, it's amazing. And Mabaneng and Braamfontein.
Absolutely.
And all these things being revived. So then you jump again from fashion into what you're doing now.
Yes.
And you are the CEO of the South African Black Property Practitioners Association. Yes. So that was a big change. Quite
a change, I must say.
And I'm very pleased that you made the change because now we can discuss something that I'm actually familiar with.
Yes, absolutely.
But your role is not one really of a property developer or a property owner.
Yes.
What you're trying to do is get people, empower people within the property industry.
Absolutely. So property is such a powerful socioeconomic lever, you know, and property, understanding how property works. Obviously, it's also just really great in terms of the career prospects that are available in the property sector and career prospects that are unknown to many people, you know. And I'm not just talking about children, I'm talking about even adults. I bump into adults all the time who have no idea what we do here in the property industry.
Exactly.
My desire to really be a part of the change I want to see drew me to this space, drew me to this organization. We do mentorship programs, we do internship programs, skills development, and it's really about saying how do we, number one, attract young people and new entrants into the business, into the industry. How do we create new industries, innovation in the industry, and make it attractive for people to want to come into?
We find it very difficult to attract young, bright people because this is not an exciting enough industry for them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Property management is, my words, the most boring thing, but you have to understand it before you move up.
If you do want to be a property owner, you know, if you do want to be a property manager, let's put the correct measures in place to make sure that you can actually achieve that. And I think for me, that's something that's so important. It's so important for people to be able to have the ability to dream, to have hopes and dreams, and actually have a foreseeable future for those dreams, regardless of what you want to do.
One of the things we're involved in commercial property, but I look at residential property in South Africa, the need to me for home ownership.
Yes, absolutely.
Because home ownership is really where people start to create wealth over a period of time.
I mean, you're speaking my language here. You're absolutely speaking my language. And I think that is such an important starting point. And again, you would be so surprised how little information people have on, the fundamentals of home ownership and the fundamentals of creating value. Because ownership just in and of itself means nothing unless you can understand how to create value out of that ownership. And once you start developing communities and giving people a sense of pride in their community, you will also then see people taking pride in their own homes and creating value in their own homes.
It's an interesting thing. If you live near to a really good school, that impacts the value of the houses.
Absolutely.
And so surely that's just, if we could get in
good
an
schools,
area, really good
it attracts
schools,
people to the area. We need a whole rethinking. It's not just about the bricks and mortar, it's about how do we create, microeconomic nodes. There's no time like the present, and right now we need to put all our hands on deck, and everyone who is in a position to actually make some impact has a responsibility to do that, So, even whether it's this organization or whether it's just in my individual capacity, I think it's so important. And even yourself, we go out, we tell people, we educate, we empower, and we do whatever we can to bridge that gap.
But it's hard work. It's sweat.
It is.
And it's not the most exciting. You have to be able to see the next step and the next step. But we just can't get good people.
The truth is, I don't think this is unique to our industry. I think that young people in general are impatient, especially this generation.
Are you impatient? You're a young person.
I am very impatient, and I want to see the change now. I want to see myself get to the top now. And, we also need to respond to that sense of urgency. And I think we have to understand that these young people are not the generation that wants to do one job for 40 years before hopefully one day getting promoted to senior management. They don't work like that.
So in your incredible career and the path, have you had mentors?
I don't know where I once read it, but someone said to me, or I read it somewhere that said, if you want something or you want to be something, just find the person who's doing that best and do what they did.
As I try and explain to people, a mentor is not going to sit there and say, do this or do that. They're going to listen to you and suggest something. Decisions are yours at the end of the day. You make your own mistakes if you have to make them after, as you say, getting advice, but the decisions are yours.
At the time when I decided to stop everything and start my shop, a lot of people face adversity from their families or their families don't support them.
Correct.
But in my case, I never felt like I didn't have that support. In fact, they were like, yeah, no, of course. Of course you should start your own business. That's what people do,
Someone like yourself who's successful, do the males resent you?
Well, I think that's a male-female thing in general. No, I think that, by and large, I get welcomed. I mean, my colleagues, my board, and many of the people that I work with, I don't encounter a lot of resistance. I think that you will, in general, as a young Black woman in the corporate space or in business, incur some level of just fascination with you. People will
like I am now.
People do treat you like a bit of a curiosity. Like, what happened? How did this happen? And when are you fetching our coffee? So I think that there is sometimes a bit of that.
If you could go back in time, looking at what you've achieved, mistakes you've made, what would you have done differently?
Particularly when I started my first business, I could have actually taken time to consult with more experts. I suppose, when you're fired up and you've got this business idea,
you know everything.
The last thing you want to do is talk to some CA type who tells you that your projections are not. You don't want to hear that.
I think when you're an entrepreneur, luck plays a role, but it's really recognizing opportunities.
Yes.
You're prepared to take the risk.
Even if you work in a company, you are required, or you have the ability to still be entrepreneurial. What do they call it? Entrepreneurship. You know, you still need to take risks. You still need to be looking for opportunities and looking to develop yourself. I think people love to read the stories about successful people and look at the end point, and they forget that there was a point when we were eating baked beans out of a can, you know.
Or people say he or she was an overnight success.
Yes,
but, you know, that was a 10-year journey.
Absolutely.
They see the end. Overnight. I think too many people blame the past, and there's lots to blame. But for someone like yourself or young people out there, there is a future.
Yeah.
If you keep looking back and saying, well, this and this is holding me back, forget about it.
Yeah.
This is where you are today, and you can move forward.
Absolutely. And I'm very inspired by the demographic of our country, because we are one of the few countries in the world, and as a continent, actually, we're one of the continents that has a huge youth demographic, you know, and that is very exciting for me. So I'm very passionate about getting the youth right.
What advice would you give to somebody who wanted to come into the property sector or any other business?
Yeah. The only barrier to entry in any business, in any industry, are the limitations that you place on yourself. And you have to get your mind right. You have to have a mindset of success, and that is really where it starts. 50% of the battle is won in your mind.
I'll say, if you can dream it and you're passionate, with some ability, you can do it, and your dream will become a reality.
Absolutely, 100%, 100%.
When you look at a building or a property, don't see what's there, see what could be there.
Absolutely.
And I think that applies to any business.
I think especially in relationships, you know, sometimes you meet your husband before he has much anything, but you have to see that, okay, this could be a big building one day.
He's got some potential.
He's got potential.
And if it doesn't work out, kick him out and find another one.
But it's true. You have to see with that third eye, and you have to be able to visualize the future and see the potential in people or in things, whether you're in property or in fashion, or in whether you're a musician, you know, you have to be able to harness that power of visualization and turn it into reality. Now
we come to crunch time, okay? You've been mentored, you've mentored some people. Purpose of this show is to connect you with the people out there who just watched this and who's scrambling to want to be mentored by you. So the question is, how many hours of your valuable time are you going to give us?
Sure. Well, I mean, obviously, I'm a very busy person, but it's something that's a priority to me. So I think I could look at, 2 to 3 hours a week. What is that, about 30 hours?
30 hours would be great.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm not even going to push you on that. But where I am going to push you now is I'm going to say, okay, you're great, and I'm sure that you associate with lots of other people who you think would make a great mentor, either in the same field or somewhere else. So we want you to challenge that person to give us at least 30 hours, but hopefully beat you.
Absolutely.
And then we're going to come back on the show and tell everybody, well, you pledged 30, but whoever you nominated pledged 40.
Okay. Well, I would like to nominate one of the most dynamic and hardworking women I know, who is a huge inspiration to me, and luckily one of my friends. Her name is Linda Mabena Olagunju. She is breaking ceilings and making waves in the renewable energy space.
That's fantastic.
Internationally. And I would love to be mentored by her, so I can imagine that she would be a great mentor to anyone.
Renewable energy is so important.
It is.
It's playing a big part in our business, so I would love to meet her and talk to her, because maybe she could mentor me.
Yeah, she's awesome.
Because this is stuff that I find very hard to understand.
Yeah.
I would like now to thank you most sincerely. It's been an absolute pleasure and an enjoyable interview. I really did enjoy it.
Thank you. The time has gone too fast, but it's been an absolute honor to be here.
As a token of my appreciation for you appearing, I'd like to give you a copy of my book.
Oh, wonderful. My first hobby.
You're in the property space, so maybe somewhere in there it's a lesson from a life in property.
Thank you so much.
So thank you. So if you would like to be mentored by Vuyiswa, please visit our website and register as a mentee. We now have hundreds of hours available from an incredible array of people across a whole host of professions. If you want to change your life, register now. Until next time.